Tonight on Reporting Scotland, a new leader for the Scottish Conservatives. Russell Findlay is elected with more than half the votes. The former journalist vows to unite the party and win back the trust of voters.
And I want to deliver a message to people across Scotland who don't feel that anyone represents them, who think politicians are all the same. If you feel that way, I get it, but I'm not the same.
Also in tonight's programme, more than 90,000 council staff to be balloted on strike action. Members of Unison will vote on industrial action after council leaders imposed a pay deal on them.
Coming up in the sports, St Johnstone could be one step closer to appointing a new manager, and Celtic are drawn against European giants in the Women's Champions League.
And do you remember these adverts?
Jackie, the Go-Ahead magazine for Go-Ahead teams.
A collection of classic comic and magazine ads is restored after lying untouched in a Dundee basement for 50 years. Hello, I'm Sally Magnus and welcome to Friday's programme. Former journalist Russell Findlay has been elected leader of the Scottish Conservatives. The West of Scotland MSP, who takes over from Douglas Ross, got more than half of the 4,000 votes cast by party members. He says he wants to win back public trust. But who is Russell Findlay, and what does he want to do with a party who are languishing in the polls and ill at ease, to put it mildly, with each other? Our political correspondent David Wallace-Lockhart was at this morning's announcement.
The three candidates filtered in, the favourite won convincingly.
And I therefore give notice that Russell Findlay MSP is elected as leader of the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party.
A new leader promising a new direction.
And I want to deliver a message to people across Scotland who don't feel that anyone represents them, who are scunnered by the divisiveness and the fringe obsessions of the Scottish Parliament, who feel let down and failed by politicians of every single party, sometimes including ours, who think politicians are all the same. If you feel that way, I get it, but I'm not the same.
He's the new leader of the Scottish Conservatives, the second biggest party in the Scottish Parliament. But who exactly is Russell Findlay?
The West of Scotland MSP was first elected in 2021. A brief spell working for the party had been preceded by a career as a crime reporter. Russell Findlay even spent time undercover. He preferred to stay out of the public eye. In 2015, it became clear why.
The investigations editor for the Scottish Sun newspaper has told a jury how acid was thrown at his face by a man during an attack at his home in Glasgow.
A man sent by a criminal gang, disguised as a postman, attacked Russell Findlay on his doorstep. The assailant was jailed in 2017. So why has Russell Findlay now decided to take a central role in Scottish politics?
I wanted to get involved in politics because I could see that politics was a much greater vehicle to change than journalism. But I'm under no illusions that I'll have to be careful about how I go about my business.
One former colleague from his journalism days, busy preparing tomorrow's paper, thinks he has the qualities to excel in politics.
Russell was utterly fearless, dogged in his pursuit of a story, and above all, deeply principled. For as long as I can remember, he has been driven by a desire to expose wrongdoings. That's not just within, the murky Scottish criminal underworld. It's within the justice system as a whole, and that included lawyers, judges, and of course victims of crime.
Other political parties say the leader has changed, but the Conservatives haven't.
It's more of the same, as I say, small political party, small percentage of the vote. I don't think it's a seismic change in Scottish politics.
Congratulations to Russell. It does seem to me as if they're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, but the first thing I think he should do is look into the eyes of the people of Scotland and apologise for what the UK Tory government has done, that the Labour government are now having to clear up.
Today is a day for celebration for Russell Findlay, but his party faces problems that he'll swiftly have to address.
And David, it is some in Tray who'll be facing on Monday morning.
It is, and it maybe can't wait to Monday, to be honest, Sally. There's electoral problems. The Conservatives only got 13% of the vote at the most recent general election. There seems to be a threat from the Reform Party. And I don't think they can rely any longer on simply being the most vocal anti-independence party in Scotland. And there are internal issues for the party as well. We learned as part of this leadership contest that they only have 7,000 members, only 60% of whom bothered to vote in this. And remember, at election time, these are the door knockers, the people who you rely on to put leaflets through doors. And also, this was a divisive leadership contest. There was infighting, there was resignations. It's now a key job of Russell Findlay, which he says he's going to do, to bring this party back together. But as one insider put it to me today, we either hang separately or hang together. We might as well hang together.
Possibly not the most rousing clarion call for the future. Thank you very much indeed, David. Now, more than 90,000 council staff belonging to the Unison Union are to be balloted on strike action after local authority leaders imposed a pay deal on them against their will. Our news correspondent Jamie McIver joins us. Jamie, this is the latest twist in quite a long-running pay dispute. Will council leaders, do you think, be surprised at this latest development?
Well, council leaders certainly knew that Unison would be unhappy by imposition, Sally. Whether they necessarily expected a full strike ballot to be announced today is another question, though. Now, this pay offer, which has now been imposed, it's basically the one that was made back in August to see off the immediate threat of bin strikes then. It would mean staff getting a rise of either just under £1,300 a year or 3.6%, whichever is the greater. The three big council unions all consulted their members on that offer. Unite and the GMB, their members backed it. Unison members, on the other hand, turned it down by a decisive margin. Now, councils knew that whatever they decided today would annoy at least one of the unions. The risk, though, of imposing a pay offer is always that it might inflame the situation rather than resolve it. So what happens next? Well, council staff will get their pay rise, including money backdated to April, and Unison will set out full details of its strike ballot in due course. Don't presume, though, that a strike is inevitable, because as well as the question of whether or not members vote to strike, there's also the question of turnout. That needs to be above a certain level before the union has a legal mandate.
McIver, thank you very much indeed. Local authority leaders have withdrawn their cooperation from the Scottish Government's planned National Care Service. Our political correspondent Phil Sim joins us now to bring us up to date on this. Phil, just remind us first where we've got to with the National Care Service.
Announced the National Care Service in 2021 as the most ambitious reform since devolution. It was meant to set up a network of local care boards and a centralised agency which would ensure that standards are high across the country. But since then it's been repeatedly delayed and scaled back. Last year a stripped back version was announced which would see councils retain control of services and staff in what was called a shared accountability model. But councils have never really liked the plans. They think that a centralised body undermines the role of local government, and today council leaders have voted to walk away from the negotiations and withdraw their support for the legislation underpinning this. It was split along party lines. It was 18 to 14, the SNP being defeated by the others, but the councils negotiate on this as one group, so basically they are out.
Well, let's hope the line holds while I ask you this one further question. I mean, what does this mean now for the future of the service? Well,
that's the question that government, given that councils are so important in delivering care services, it's really hard to picture how this will work without the Care Minister Marie Todd tonight saying this is extremely disappointing, that these talks have been going on for 2 years and that walking away now shows total disregard. But, the government says it's open to further talks, but really tonight it's fair to say that the future of the National Care Service is hanging in the balance.
Phil Sim, thank you very much indeed. Now, some of the day's other stories. St Mirren defender Sean Rooney has been charged with assaulting an 18-year-old woman in a Glasgow takeaway. He's also been charged with a breach of the peace against an 18-year-old man, which is being treated as a hate crime. The Paisley Club confirmed that the 28-year-old had been suspended pending a precautionary investigation into an alleged incident, and that he would not be playing for the Premiership side in the immediate future. A 19th century painting of Paisley has sold at auction for more than £500,000. St John Lavery's Paisley Lawn Tennis Club was one of more than 90 paintings sold by Paisley Art Institute. He decided to sell a quarter of his historic collection after a row over space allocated in the town's new museum. It said the £1.5 million raised by the auction would support the rest of the collection and its work in its new home in Glasgow Art Club. Should Scotland be growing more hemp? Some scientists and farmers think it could have benefits for the environment, the economy and our health. Our science correspondent Laura Goodwin has been to one of the few growers in the country who are preparing for harvest.
5 hectares of hemp growing very discreetly on a farm somewhere in Angus. Martin Sesford has been growing the crop for 4 years as part of a trial. Hemp is a variety of cannabis containing less than 0.2% of THC, the psychoactive constituent of marijuana. Nonetheless, to grow it, you need a special licence from the Home Office, and misinformation remains a problem.
Your police records have to be checked, and you have to grow the crop in some place where the general public wouldn't have access. Other farmers who've grown it have had trouble with people coming and have ravaged the crops.
What this crop is very good for is making oil.
Unless we do the trials here, we're going to miss this opportunity. You know, with olive oil having problems and, you know, oilseed rape having problems, this is why we feel, or I feel, that we should be looking at it in more depth.
And it has environmental benefits too. Studies suggest that a hectare of hemp can remove a similar amount of CO2 from the atmosphere as a small forest. Now the difference is that this took just 5 months to grow. Byproducts from oil making can also be used for animal feed, reducing the need for soya. Duncan Farms in Aberdeenshire recently took part in a study giving some of their laying chickens a hemp-based feed, and the results were surprising.
There was sort of no effect on the hen's performance or welfare, which we were really happy about, and the most interesting part was that it doubled the omega-3 and vitamin E levels in the eggs.
Scientists say the benefits to our health don't end there.
We've seen that people, after consuming hemp, they had very lower hunger scores, so they promote satiety. Hemp really benefit a lot of gut hormones and modulate hormones that are key in regulating our sugar metabolism.
At the moment, only a handful of farms in Scotland are growing hemp, but advocates say this is an opportunity, a fast-growing cash crop that also has impressive green credentials. Laura Goodwin, reporting Scotland.
The King and Queen will be at the Scottish Parliament tomorrow to mark the 25th anniversary of devolution. King Charles will address MSPs and folk from every constituency will be there too. The event will also showcase Scottish music and culture. Our political correspondent Kirsten Campbell has been reflecting on some of the legislation the Parliament has passed over the last quarter of a century.
Right, Jess, just put your socks on.
Jess Walsh will be 100 next month. She has 4 carers like Elizabeth who come to help her.
Well, she gives me my breakfast, she washes me, she gives me a lot of cheek. And it gives me something to get myself up for.
She's very well looked after, and it's so good because it means she can stay in her own home. She wants to stay in her own home, so without the carers she would not be able to do that.
The legislation to introduce free personal care is one of 370 bills approved by MSPs over the last 25 years.
This is one of the best things the Scottish Parliament's ever done. It's been revolutionary, and for the last quarter of a century, hundreds of thousands of older people have received the absolutely critical and essential care they need, probably to stay in their own homes rather than going to a care home, but it's facing big challenges.
There have been bills to scrap university tuition fees, to give communities the right to buy land, and to make it an offence if you don't clean up after your dog. But not all legislation has been successful. MSPs have had 2 goes at banning fox hunting, and the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act, designed to tackle sectarianism, had to be repealed. One change which had a significant impact was the ban on smoking in public places.
It made a heck of a difference. In fact, it was described as the most important public health legislation in a generation. We saw immediate declines in heart attack admissions for hospitals, 17% in the first year, and that was in both smokers and non-smokers. But also particularly children, we saw a reduction in asthma admissions to hospital.
On Hogmanay in 2014, Susan and Jerry Douglas Scott became the first lesbian couple to marry in Scotland after the Marriage and Civil Partnership Act came into force.
That meant everything in the world that night. You know, it was a statement for us of our love in front of the world. And it really was the world. It went global, and we were very pleased with that, just in the hope that it would inspire and make other people brave enough to be able to do the same thing.
As the Parliament prepares to welcome the King and Queen to Holyrood to mark its 25th anniversary, it's a time to reflect on what politicians have achieved and what more they've still to do. Kirsten Campbell, reporting Scotland, Holyrood.
And BBC Scotland will bring you live coverage of the royal visit on BBC Two and the BBC Scotland News website from 11:30 tomorrow morning. Now let's get tonight's sport. What you got for us?
Well, Sally, we're very early into the season, but we're already talking about new managers and managerial positions. That's football for you.
It certainly
Thanks
is.
very much. Yes, hello there. Well, we start tonight with the vacant managerial position at St Johnstone, who have been given permission to speak to Aberdeen first-team coach Peter Leaven after Craig Levein was sacked last week. Leaven was interim boss at Aberdeen before Jimmy Teelan's appointment in the summer, steering them away from relegation danger. Teelan admits it would be a big loss to the club if he were to leave, but he's happy his efforts have been recognised.
He get what do you say, allowance? But permission to talk with them, and he's a good coach, and it's good that our good staff get eyes on them, and then it's up to him and of course Peter, but so far so good. He's focusing here and prepare game tomorrow, so that we can say about that.
Hearts defender Stephen Kingsley has spoken of the shock and the sense of responsibility among the playing squad at the sacking of the club's head coach Stephen Naismith on Sunday. Naismith was dismissed from his role at Tynecastle the day after Hearts' 2-1 defeat by St Mirren, the club's 8th consecutive loss. Liam Fox is in interim charge tomorrow when bottom-placed Hearts host Ross County in the league. And Kingsley signalled an acknowledgement by the players that they simply have to raise their standards.
It was obviously a devastating day. I mean, it's been a disappointing few months that's led to this, and it's something that I think definitely was obviously shockwaves around the changing room when it did. But yeah, that's the nature of the game, unfortunately, and I think no one feels more responsibility than us as players. I think it's got to be us that have to share that responsibility and do things better and be better.
Celtic head coach Alina Sadiku and her players would have been following the Women's Champions League draw intently today. And if glamour ties were what they were hoping for, well, they won't be disappointed with Spanish giants Real Madrid drawn in their group. Last night, Celtic became the first Scottish team to reach the Women's Champions League group stage since it was introduced. They beat Ukraine's Vorskla Poltava 2-0 in Airdrie with goals from Emma Lawton and Shannon McGregor, adding to their 1-0 lead from the first leg to ensure they went into the draw in Nyon today. And here we have Group B. Celtic were in pot 4, so they were always going to be drawn against some higher seeded big hitters. Chelsea have won the Women's Super League in England 5 years in a row, and with Scotland star Erin Cuthbert in their ranks will prove a tough test for Celtic. And it won't get any easier when they go toe-to-toe with Real Madrid. Scotland midfielder Caroline Weir, a key player for them. They've been runners-up to Barcelona in the Spanish League for the past 2 seasons. And Eredivisie champions 20 are Celtic's other opponent, with the matches beginning on the 8th and 9th of October through to mid-December. Now, the Scottish FA's new VAR manager John Moss has stepped down after less than 2 months in the job. Moss was brought in to work beside new head of referees Willie Collum at the start of August and is leaving to take up a senior position with another national association. It's the first round of the Men's Scottish Cup this weekend with 2 games this evening. Tynecastle take on Hill of Beath Hawthorn, and on Sportscene on the BBC Scotland channel, Dalkeith Thistle's reward for coming through the preliminary round is a home match against Broxburn Athletic. Brian McLaughlin can set the scene for us at Kings Park.
And this is what it's all about, the Scottish Cup. 240 days to go until the final on the 24th of May next year. But this evening, the tournament proper gets underway. Over the weekend, there are 30 ties, but tonight it's all about Dalkeith Thistle against Broxburn Athletic here at Kings Park in Dalkeith. The hosts this evening currently sitting in 5th position in the 3rd tier of the East of Scotland League, while Broxburn have been promoted to the Lowland League and going along really nicely in their quest to become an SBFL team. However, tonight it's all about the Scottish Cup. The match kicks off this evening at 7:45 and you can watch it live on Sportscene. The programme gets underway at 7:30.
Now it's over to Louise Cowie to find out what's happening on BBC Scotland at 7 o'clock.
Tonight on The 7, we'll have the latest from Beirut, which has been rocked by a fresh round of airstrikes as Israel says it's attacked Hezbollah's central headquarters. We'll speak to Professor Sir John Curtis about what challenges lie ahead for new Scottish Conservative leader Russell Finlay. And tributes are paid to the actor Maggie Smith, who's died at the age of 89. See you at 7.
In the meantime, it's been a while since the likes of these have seen the light of day. Comics and magazines like the Jackie, Bunty, the Dandy used to be household names, and there were some terrific adverts in the 1950s and 60s to go with them. Now they're being restored. They're getting a new lease of digital life after being found in a basement belonging to the Dundee publishers DC Thomson. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean has the story.
Jackie! Jackie was a weekly magazine launched at the height of Beatlemania and one of the first to target teenage girls.
Beauty know-how, things for go-girls to wear.
This advert for the 1960s is one of many discovered in the basement of the Dundee publisher, DC Thomson.
It was quite a find, but we didn't know what a find it was. Some of the canisters couldn't be opened. They were rusted shut just because of where they'd been stored. And the ones we could open, the contents looked so delicate that we realised that actually we are not best placed to look after this. We knew this needed specialist intervention, which is why we got in touch with the National Library of Scotland's Moving Image Archive.
And there they began the painstaking task of restoring the films.
It is highly unusual to get a complete set of adverts, especially from the early days of commercial television. Commercial television only really began in Scotland in 1957, and now we've got a 1960s TV adverts for a major Scottish publisher, a major UK publisher.
They're also an important record of social history, of a time when you went to the newsagent for your favourite magazine, and if you were lucky, found a free gift attached.
And this week, girls, there's a special free gift.
They may get rings for the girls, the boys it was endless football things or car things, and they were interchangeable. You could see that they would we'll get an Elvis ring for this publication, a rosebud for this publication, and they were aimed at different age groups as well. So it was very clever and very effective marketing. And as I say, to tell a complete story like that in 30 seconds, it was really well done.
The era may be long gone, as are most of the publications, but the hope is that the ads, which are now online, will bring back some fond memories. Pauline McLean, reporting Scotland.
It's new, it's terrific, it's on sale now. Price £6.
Now here's Callum. You look like a dandy sort of chap.
I like the Dandy. Used to read the Beano as well there. So what about yourself?
Right, to Beano and then the Bunty.
Oh, very nice. Very
now listen, what a wonderful view from
beautiful.
Ardnamurchan.
Look at that Kilmorey, Ardnamurchan, looking out to Egg, Rum, the distant Coolins there. But you can see the chill. You can see the chill in that air, can't you just? Hello there, folks. When the north wind doth blow, the sun will most certainly show for many of us today. But in the wind, it was cold, raw even across the northern parts. We had frequent showers, the odd rainbow and snow over our mountains. There's the earlier satellite and radar. Showers where you'd expect them in the northerly, frequent in the north running down the coast. The odd one, central southern parts, but here it was just mostly sunny. That's the Arctic air mass. It's in place for tonight with clearing skies, winds dropping out. It'll turn cold for many of us with a frost for some of us. Not so across coastal areas and in the northwest where we'll see some cloud and rain arriving overnight. So the winds are dropping out inland. Any showers fading back to coastal areas will continue in the north and the Northern Isles overnight. That cloud and rain overnight feeding in to the northwest in these locations. Frost free. It won't be as cold, but inland elsewhere, temperatures tumbling away, low enough for a widespread grass frost. A few spots will go sub-zero. Deeside, Highland Glens, frost hollows across southern Scotland too. So it's a cold start today, tomorrow, but expansive cloud layers across many parts with that warm front edging in. Some dampness, most of it in the west. But as we push through the course of the day, we should see the cloud thinning downwind of the hills across eastern parts. So some brighter skies coming in here. The odd blink coming through the cloud at times, central areas too. But generally in the west, overcast, grey skies. Temperatures gradually recovering after that cold start. Rain on and off. But if you had a rain gauge in the garden, you'd be struggling to record much. But some heavier bursts in the West Highlands, the Northwest Highlands, Skye, the Western Isles, and still Shetland in the sunnier northwesterly regime with the odd shower. If you're heading to the hills then, extensive hill fog across western ranges and with a freezing level initially around 800 metres, frequent precipitation. The West-Northwest Highlands will be falling as snow later. That snow becoming confined to the highest tops as the freezing level rises to 1300 metres. Eastern ranges, still the highest tops being capped by some hill fog. The odd flurry maybe getting in across the Cairngorms, but generally it'll be drier for the Angus Hills into the borders. In that westerly window, a significant wind chill. You'll need the winter gear if you're heading to the hills. Patchy rain and some upland snow for a time too, as I say, particularly in the northwest. As we look for Sunday, Monday and into Tuesday, we've got this low that's diving to the south of us. May give some spells of rain for a time into Monday before a ridge tends to build in for the middle of the week, so not looking too bad then. But for Sunday, fairly expansive cloud, high-level cloud throwing up ahead of this system, but for most of us it'll be dry, some brightness. Best of the sunshine in the north, could get up to around 13-14 degrees, not too bad, but a southeasterly wind will pick up in the south with some rain perhaps in the far south later. Sally.
Thanks very much, Callum. And McAlpine will be here with your late news around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone in the team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.